Sorry, we got a little bit of a delay here. It's coming back to you.
Right. Imperfection makes us beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yep.
There we go.
Yay.
Okay, there we go.
Hey.
Now we're really delayed. So I hope we're not delayed out to Facebook and Twitter. And I am Paul Bloomberg, and I am the CEO and author at the Core Collaborative Learning Network. And tonight is our first masterclass conversation, and we decided in the new year that we would be honoring the impact of educators, parents, families, organizations all over the globe, because we've all been going through a lot, and we really believe that we need to extend a lot of gratitude to the folks that are working so hard. And so I know, thank you, but that is live from the hospital. But
Yes.
what we're going to do is we're going to start with a quick, you'll do a quick introduction, and I want you to just speak, and we'll start with you, Vivette, about what honoring impact means to you. And if you give a quick and actually speak a little bit about MCU as well, because I think it's a really important organization. So what does honoring mean to you, Vivette?
Hi. First of all, thank you so much for having me here tonight. I think it's so important, especially after the historic day we had yesterday as a nation. For us to have this show tonight is not by circumstance. It is relevant that we honor impact at every stage of our lives, no matter where we are personally or professionally, for we did not get here on our own accord. There are people on whose shoulders we stand, and people who poured into us, and by honoring them, we allow their legacy to move forward and to live on through us. That is a key foundational principle of who I am as an individual and who I am as an educator. You know, as a first-year teacher, you have to have a mentor. And when we think about, well, why do you have to have a mentor? It's because there's an impact that they want them to have on you. That because we know the power of impact so well, that we see we need to align ourselves with others who will impact us so we can impact others. That is the circle of life. That's what honoring impact really does. Not to wait until someone has passed on to tell of their legacy and their life. No, in the here and now, to honor them by vocalizing what they have done and how it has helped us, me, live my life. The National Parents Union has been a really wonderful platform that has helped me to honor impact with several individuals that have really touched me, most of them parents. I think sometimes when we think of honoring impact, we think of grandiose, right? But I'm
Yeah,
talking
yeah.
about moms and dads and local people, like tangible people we touch who really, like, they're helping us, they're making a big impact on us. Quick story, I went out to eat breakfast over the weekend and with a girlfriend of mine. And as we were there, minding our business, talking, at the end of our time there, the waiter came over us and said, "What's the secret?" We said, "What secret?" Said, "I've been watching you the whole time and you haven't stopped smiling with each other and laughing. What's the secret?" We impacted him without
Yeah,
even realizing. You can impact someone
mhm.
being in the room with them. And it's
That's for sure.
important that we honor that and we take time, take a moment, as the old adage says, take time to smell the roses. And I believe
Yeah,
honoring impact is really tied into that.
yeah. And a quick little story about like the vet and I just met, I think, right before the holidays. And our
Yes.
friend Marisol connected us to the National Parent Union. And like I was a little nervous. I think you might have been a little nervous, but like we immediately hit it off. And it like you had an impact on me immediately. Like I knew within minutes that you would be someone that would probably be in my life, hopefully for a really long time. And I think and then we had another planning session, and I felt the same way. And now we're bringing you in to be a part of our network because I mean, if those of you, I mean, Star knows the vet as well, and I think she can speak to her friendship with the vet because that was just this weird coincidence. But I mean, I had that feeling about you the moment I met you. So it's really, I really relate to this idea that we need to honor impact in the moment and not wait for it. Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah. Star, why don't you go next because you and the vet were friends and I
Mhm.
didn't even know it.
Well, I
So
mean,
what does that mean to you?
so a lot of the stuff you've been saying already does really resonate. For me, it's about kind of like what we put out, we get back, the whole pay it forward kind of thing.
Yeah.
And there are so many people who I know in my career, in my life, whether it's for a small amount of time or a longer amount of time, there's always a reason people come in when they do, and they make that impression. And something I've tried to do as I've gotten older is to honor those moments. Instead of being sad when things pass, I try to just remember what it was there for. And if things last and persist for a long time, I feel pretty grateful. For example, all of us have worked in more than one school or school district. You know, there are people who are like your family every day of your life. You go to work, you're with them, and then you switch schools, and some of those people don't necessarily move with you to the next school.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's hard to believe that people you spend every day of your life with aren't with you, but the lessons you learned from them in those spaces come with you into the next space. And maybe if you're lucky, you have those one or two who come with you wherever you go.
Yeah.
And I think in experience, I've had so many teachers when I was a student and then in my early career and now who have made such a profound impact on me as an educator. And I hear them in my head when I'm sharing, you know, my philosophies now. And I'm just super cognizant of, as Vivette was saying, how we're on the shoulders of so many other people. And I certainly wouldn't be the person and educator I am without so many other people who made it possible. And later tonight, one of those people, Connie Hamilton, will be coming on as well. She's somebody who's super special also. And
Yeah.
Vivette and I just, it's weird how the universe kind of puts you in the same place with people over and over again. And
It's
it's just
awesome.
like, oh, it is awesome. I feel so grateful to be able to have another opportunity to build on what we started with ESET 2 so many years ago at this point. So I'm pretty grateful to be here too. Thank you.
Yeah.
Can
And
I say something really quickly,
of course
Paul?
you can say something. This isn't scripted.
I just want to honor an educator that has had a profound impact on me. She's a colleague of mine. I want to call her by name, Lakeisha Adlam. Thank you so
Yeah.
much for your impact on me. I pray that you see this, and when you do, you know that you've really touched my life, not only my career, but who I am as an individual, how I see the world, how I relate to my students. We met in 2012 working at a school together, and we have never parted ways since then. And we work together again, and I just feel so honored. And she's just this amazing human and educator, no matter where she goes. She's like that behind the scenes person. Like, I like to be in front of the camera. She's like, nah, chill, behind the scenes. I got you. And I'm just like, you are amazing. So Lakeisha Adlam, shout out, baby. You're the best.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Another person who's been in my life for a really long time is Rachel. And Rachel and I met when we were working for Doug Reeves. And then I don't even know, that was like 12 years ago. And
Long
Rachel
time
did
ago.
all this amazing work in the support of English language learners and more. But Rachel, what does honoring impact mean to you?
Oh my gosh. Wow. Well, just listening to Vivette and Star and, hearing their ideas, really sparked some thoughts for me. But one of the things that's been really present for me lately is just the idea of giving voice to those people that Vivette was talking about, the behind the scenes people. And right now I feel like parents are behind the scenes, teachers are behind the scenes. There's all of this education going on and happening, and people are being challenged and and stretched and pulled and asked to grow in ways that we never even expected ourselves to be able to do. I was just working with the teachers right now, and I could see on their faces the wear of like being online all day long with their kids and then sitting through a training with me. And I just wanted to just reach out and like hug them, and just say like, I see you, I see what you're doing. And even though, you may not be recognized for it every day, this is a difficult time. And yet here they are, sitting online with me, learning about how to be better teachers and learning about how to challenge their students in new ways that they never even imagined a year ago. So, oh my gosh, I just feel like how much growth has happened, not just for, us as, behind the scenes people, but our educators, our frontline workers out there. Wow. It's just, I just wish we could honor all of them. And there was just a way to like, let them know how much we appreciate what they do every day.
Yeah, I really loved in New York in the spring. That's when I was living in Brooklyn, and we've since moved to Palm Springs. But like every night, people would be screaming outside of their window. You could hear it across the whole city. And we could hear in Manhattan people screaming. We lived in Brooklyn, and everyone was really honoring our frontline workers at the time. And so I think that's what really gave us the idea that, a lot of folks that don't get mentioned are teachers. And teachers, have babies on their lap, and their husbands or partners or wives or whatever are all working in the same house, and they have multiple kids, and they're making impact every day. And I don't think that people really understand the kind of impact that our teachers are really making right now. So thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, Isaac, I met, I don't even know, probably 10, it's been a while.
Yeah.
And he was an instructional coach in North Carolina, and his school was a turnaround school. And I think I was there like 20 days a year, and we just grew to be really good friends. Him and his wife, and I've not even gotten to meet Jane in person yet, his daughter. But like Isaac, what does impact mean to you?
So I've learned throughout my life that if somebody can say something better than you, just let it be. So I'm going to take everything that people said, but I have a little kind of shout out to this group because it really represents different phases of impact on me. Because as Paul said, so many years ago, he came to my school and really helped me see some different ways to approach what we do so that and she came in and really helped us with our dual language program and just with really thinking about, you know, how do we engage all of our learners in the formative assessment process. And then now Star and I are talking like, I feel like 3 times a day with all the projects that we're on. And so I'm like learning all these things from her, and we're kind of like incorporating our different styles. And then Vivette and I essentially just met. I talked to Paul. He was so pumped after that conversation. And already you've had an impact on me just because of the way you speak of things. And even through your emails, like you're so attentive to the details that are going to impact others.
Positive.
Yeah. So I think that this is a great opportunity just to be even reminded that we are all these like conglomerations of all the people who give into us so we can give out to others.
Yeah, like Vivette mentioned a mentor that really stood out to her. I'll start this one, but the reason why the Core Collaborative even exists is because of my mentor, Mimi Aronson, who's from New York. And she was a consultant in my classroom in San Diego. And I was an instructor coach in Denver and then moved to San Diego. And she was a 3rd grade teacher. And she was in my room like 10 days, 15, 20 days a year, teaching everyone in our San Diego Unified School District how to teach writing. And she was the one that brought me to New York. And she was the one that really like propelled me to want to be a consultant. And because I think what I learned from her is I loved being a teacher, but I wanted to make even more impact. Yeah. And then I became a principal. And then I'm like, how can I even make more impact? And I think she was the one that really just taught me to be like really selfless and how to like really lift up the teaching profession. And she is someone, she passed away a few years ago. I think it was one of the hardest times of my whole life because we were so close. And it was a really interesting friendship because she was, you know, a lot older than me. And we would go and get drunk together, which was really fun. Which is just such an odd thing, but she just had a way of seeing strengths in everybody that she touched. And so I think that's the next round. Like, is there someone special specifically in your past that might have had an impact on you that you'd like to share? And it doesn't have to be a teacher. It doesn't even have to be teacher related for all I care.
So, Paul, you were just mentioning somebody from your past who is older. And when I was in high school, my senior year, we had to do volunteer work in order to graduate. And I've always had quite an affinity for the elderly because I have a grandmother, a Bubby, that I absolutely adore. I'm still very fortunate to have her in my life. She's going to be 95 this year. So this woman, Helen, needed help with her house, and through reach out to seniors in my high school, I was chosen to go to her house to help her with things that needed to be moved in her house that she couldn't move by herself. And she was this amazing artist. She traveled the world. She met all these amazing people. And the very first day we met, she started telling me all these amazing stories about how she had met the Dalai Lama and she traveled all over the world. And I fell in love with her immediately because she lived so close to where I was, but her world was so much bigger than mine. And from that first meeting, I stayed on with her and helped her with her entire house, even after my hours were done. And we became great friends, even though, she was my grandmother's age, essentially. Yeah. And she came to my wedding and she was there when my son was born, and we made art together, and she took a profound interest in my career and all the things that I did. And just encouraged me in a way that I think sometimes it's hard with family members because they're expected to do those kinds of things almost. So to have an outside person who wasn't related to me take such a tremendous interest in my life and show me that anything I could dream, I could make happen. And she's not with us anymore either. Unfortunately, she passed away from cancer a couple of years ago. But I would have made time for Helen every day of my life if she would have let me.
That's cool.
And I feel so grateful for that. And I'm grateful my son got to meet her and spend time with her because she was really very special.
Yeah, you're hearing these themes of these personal connections, right? And these lessons that we're learning from the people that have impacted us the most. Anyone else who wants to share someone from their past that really impact on you?
Yeah, so I'm thinking mine actually is a teacher. She wasn't my teacher, but I started in education the way I think everyone should be able to, like ideally. So when I started like mid-school year, and my classroom wasn't ready. So what ended up happening is I had this like 3-month period of time where I was hired on as a new teacher, but I had no classroom. And so my principal was like, well, I want you to visit a different classroom every week, spend a week with a different teacher and just learn from them. And so I literally got to spend the first 3 months of my educational career just sitting in the classrooms. I know. It was like literally, like I remember being frustrated because I was like, I just want my classroom to be ready. I just want to start teaching. But what an amazing opportunity I had to learn from so many amazing teachers. And there was one that I really connected to, Mrs. Reeves, and she was a couple of years away from retirement, but she was one of those teachers who said, I'm literally learning something new every day, and every day I bring something new to my classroom. And I remember thinking, I want to be her. Like I hope that when I've been in the classroom as long as she has, that I can say to myself, I'm still learning. And I never reached, and she literally said to me, I've never reached the point where I thought that I know it all, because I know I don't. And she was just like my hero. And I wish she was still here with us, but she unfortunately isn't here with us anymore. But she became a great friend and mentor to me.
I think she definitely lives in you, because knowing you for so long, and what I'm most proud about around the collaborative that we've assembled is like all of us are learners like crazy, which is kind of, it gets in the way sometimes because we have so many ideas that like we can't focus and develop so many because we're all a little ADD. But I know you so well, and you're such a learner. So clearly, she's had an impact on you. Anybody else? Someone from your past.
I just found a note from my. No, you go, Vivette.
No, go ahead. It's okay.
No, you can let that go, because you need to split.
Yeah.
I was just, as everyone was speaking, thinking of my mom, who, my first teacher, and the things that she poured into me just by being around her, that I get to see. My mom died, March will make 23 years, so she didn't really get to see me reach to this stage of my life. She didn't get to see the fruits of her labor. But as I go throughout my work, I think about my mom so much. She was a nurse, even in the hospital now. I saw a bedside manner of one of the nurses attending to my daughter, and I was able to say to her, you're doing such a wonderful job, taking such great care. You remind me of my mom. That her impact is just there in everything I do and say, and the way I want to treat people, and even the the great love that you all have shown to me in this space. A lot of that I have to attribute it to my mother, Phyllis Hemans. So, um, yeah, I just want to, although she's not with us, she does still live on in
Yeah,
me,
yeah.
and I want to say her name and not forget her, and I want others to know when you see Vivette, you also see Phyllis.
That's cool.
Love
And
it.
I think what I was really impressed about Vivette when we first came on is that, you're, in the hospital, and the first thing that you said was how amazing and kind everyone was to you there, and that you wanted to write a note to them. And I just don't think that there's a lot of people out there like you. And like, that was like the first thing that you mentioned. And I think that's what drew me to you right away, is that you really notice and care for people that care for you. And it's really cool to hear that your mom was a nurse. My mom was a nurse too.
Wow,
So like,
another connection.
both my
I
mom
think
and my
this is how we honor impact, and I'm getting emotional just thinking about it. And I think we should get filled up when we think about those that really have impacted us, and how do we honor them? Maybe it comes in so many ways. Perhaps it's just a little note. That
Yeah.
note you don't know what that could do to a person, how it can really change them if they're having a bad day, or if they're feeling unsure of something. We don't know, we may never know. But the little bit of time that it takes to utter a kind word or smile, or just be positive, we're missing that in the world. It's missing right now. But
It is.
we can bring it back. We have the power to bring it back, and honoring impact is a very practical way of doing it. And
It
it
is.
costs nothing. It's free.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Free. Yeah.
Yeah, it's free. It's free. Isaac, you're last. And then I know Vivette's going to cut out on us, and we're going to bring in Connie.
Yeah.
But Isaac, you're on the spot.
Yeah, I was thinking this weekend I went through, so we had an extra day, so I was going through some old papers and things, and found a note from Larry Conti, who was my cooperating teacher a million years ago in my first student teaching experience. And kind of similar to you, Rachel, my school let me switch my course schedule because I wanted to start a year, because I got to do like a practicum experience with him before, and he was just so kind with his time and his energy. And now I know, as like a grown-up, with a family and a job and things, like how giving he was. He's still a principal in North Carolina, but I was just reading these things, and I found these quotes I would give the kids, and I'd kind of done this little essay, and I boiled it all down to that it's about relationships, and the kids just need to know they're beautiful and they're loved. And if they know those two things, they can learn. And this was an athletic, cool guy, who let me be that, and like trusted where that was coming from. And so I just really want to honor the impact he had on me. And he was kind of my first teaching experience, and here I am a couple of decades later.
That's really cool. So we're going to let Vivette go, because she has some business to take care of, and we really are hoping all is okay. And it's not going to be the last time that you're going to hear from Vivette, because we all know that you're going to make a major impact on schools globally and our network. And we're really super grateful that you've reciprocated the invitation to collaborate with us. So I'm just really tickled and excited, and I talk to my husband every day about you. And Marisol was right.
Yeah.
Marisol was right. She was right. So Marisol, if you're listening, you were right, and she loves to be right.
Awesome. Thank you, Vivette.
So much. Your
Thank you,
pleasure, and have a lovely night. Bye.
Yeah, have a lovely night too. Take care. Okay, so we're bringing on Connie, right?
Yeah, here's Zach, and he's coming on, and then Connie's coming on next. And I think Star is going to head out as well. You feel like this is a good time, Star? I know you've been going hard for a long time.
Yeah, Star goes to bed at 7:30.
Yeah.
Usually, because Star was up at 3:45 this morning.
Yeah.
So, you can say make fun of my early bedtime, but I wake up before most people go to sleep. So
Yeah.
It's true. I miss our 6 a.m. text.
Yeah.
But now I'm on the
Fair
West
enough.
Coast. But I know that you want to pay tribute to Connie, so maybe you should say something out loud about Connie, because you're going to cut out and she's going to come on, I bet.
Yes. So those of you who don't know Connie very well, Connie is she is the special gift that you don't realize is there all the time.
Yeah.
And I don't have a sister, I have a brother, and I never thought I wanted a sister until I had Connie. And she actually, we met because she wanted to write a book about homework, and we were kind of put together. We had never met in person. She had contributed to something I wrote for my questioning book, and hers is so much better than mine. And she's like, I'm going to come to your house for the weekend and we're going to write. I was like, okay, that sounds like a good idea. So we had never met. I picked her up from the airport, and the first thing she looked at me and she said, "You are not what I was expecting."
Yeah.
What the hell were you expecting?
What a great introduction.
You're so tame online. People wouldn't know us because, I guess you never realized I was covered in tattoos and just very New York. You have to get used to that kind of aspect of me. And we bonded that weekend and wrote most of the book. And I cannot imagine my life without Connie. And if you don't know her, she will impact your work. And she has impacted my life profoundly, not just my work, but my personal life too. So I hope you all enjoy her because she's pretty darn special.
We will, and sweet dreams, Star.
Yeah, see you in the morning.
My husband's already in bed.
And good night. And we have Zach.
Hey, Paul.
Which, this is I'm so glad to see you.
Yeah, good to see you too, Matt.
Your hair has grown out.
Yeah.
Pandemic hair.
Yeah,
I love it.
Hair. What's really cool about Zach and Rachel, I don't think you've met Zach.
I have not.
You're Rachel.
You have not. Zach and I met in South Africa. and working.
Wow.
And working in Johannesburg. And here's Connie. And we were just talking about you. Star was talking about you, Connie. And
I heard.
Yeah.
Connie I met, which is this is the weirdest story, is we were doing a visible learning conference, and Connie did a sketch note. Remember that?
Yeah.
Yeah, you did the sketch note. I still have it, by the way. And I've used it. And then for some reason, Connie introduced me to Star. And so I want to introduce everyone to Zach and Connie. And we have been talking about honoring impact. And so obviously you can introduce yourself briefly. But whoever wants to go first, we're asking, what does honoring impact mean to you?
I'll defer to Zach. Go ahead.
I was about to defer to you. Okay, sure. Well, you keep referring. Well, I'm Zach Cohen. I'm the middle school director at the St. Francis School in Louisville, Kentucky, which is a non-denominational, proudly progressive independent school, sit in Arn, 64 pastoral acres. So I can tell you that something that my daily gratitude today is that I got to spend an hour taking a group of sixth graders on a hike around our campus. So a very nice way to sort of disconnect right in the middle of the work day. Yeah, fantastic. So for me, I guess when I think of, and I thought about this question a little bit over the past few days, and I guess when I think about honor and impact, I think about just how multifaceted it is, because certainly it isn't one thing, it's many things, right? It incorporates distinct but interrelated components like dignity, gratitude, and empowerment. But what I started thinking about was kind of just less about the what and more about the how. I guess I think about my work on a day-to-day basis as a middle school director, and I think about my faculty. And I think about the fact that honor and impact is not a one-off. It's not something that you check off a to-do list. It's recursive work. It's something that's ongoing and that constantly needs to be revisited, right? 100 high five, a pat on the back, a kind email, a note of gratitude, these things are not sufficient to, sustain that honoring over the course of a full school year, right? It's something that you have to constantly circle back to. And we could do so through acknowledgements and recognitions and celebrations. And it's really about trying to match that person to the way that we honor them. And then, of course, the way to think about it, I think sometimes as well is, I've never been one to actually participate in improv activities, but I've always heard about that. The first rule of improv, right, is yes and. And I think about when I sit there with the faculty member and we work together to, let's say, co-construct some success criteria around what it is they're going to seek to do. And it's not about whether or not I've been to that mountaintop before. It's not whether or not I've put in place and implemented in my classrooms in the past, Paul, you've seen those, personal learning pathways. It's about being excited and matching their level of excitement, even if they're just at base camp, even if they've just arrived. It's not about saying, oh, well, I've done that or I've been there. It's about meeting that level of excitement as you co-construct their success together. So I think for me, an impact is many things, but beyond what it is, it's really that focus on how do we actually show that to other people.
Yeah. What do you think, Connie?
I think that was great.
Same,
I sort of like lost my train of thought, like I had this whole thing planned and then Zach started to talk and I was like, yeah, I agree. Now I got nothing.
He's like that, isn't he?
I think the big thing about impact, as I was thinking about how you define an impact, I think it's like the fact that there's something that's still lingering after that initial impact. Like it's not really an impact if it doesn't stick or it doesn't just really stay with you in some capacity. And I think I can't be alone. Of course, I never leave my house anymore, but I can't be alone in the fact that Amanda Gorman had made a crazy impact on me yesterday. And I have reread that poem in its entirety so many times. I've rewatched her on video, reciting it. I mean, wow.
I know. I'm with you on that. I was like sobbing.
So, I mean, when I think of impact, I think of how this unknown to me, maybe not unknown to the world, but unknown to me, this poet came unexpectedly, and it's all I can think about for, the past 36 hours is just the words that she projected and the power of those words and how we need to pay more mind to words such as hers.
Yeah, I think that's a really cool idea, is about thinking the way that words impact us. And I think we've all experienced that a lot over the last 3-4 years, positively and negatively. And for me, I think because things have gotten so negative, I think the positives have met even more. Connie sent Tony and I this really cool postcard, and Connie, you have to kind of talk about the activity you did with your family, but it had these little fuzzy things on it, and Tony and I, of course, we cry about everything. It was just this note in the mail, and it meant so much to us that someone would take a moment and do that. And especially in the environment that we're in, that little note that had a huge impact on both of us. And we were talking about it when we woke up this morning about like what a small gesture, but what an impact it has made. So I think this idea of words having impact is something that I didn't really think. Do any of you have words that have made impact on you, or like a book or a poem that has really spoken to you, that really has changed your life, like Connie has talked about the poem that she's read probably a billion times and listened to. I've done the same about that too. You have a book that's impacted you? Everyone's quiet.
Mine I've shared before on something similar, but Leo Buscaglia's Living, Loving, Learning is a collection of essays. And if you Google him, he's the love doctor from the 70s. But what he really is an outstanding educator who, way ahead of his time, realized that love and connection and respect and dignity and all these words that you're using are what learning is. And this quote I use all the time, he took from the book The Little Prince. It says, perhaps love is simply my leading you gently back to yourself. But he took it and adapted it to education. Perhaps education is my leading you gently back to yourself. And I get chills because it takes me back to Larry Conte, who I mentioned earlier, who recommended that book to me, and I bought it that night. But it takes me back to that moment, and that's something that comes up in my life all the time and reminds me ways that I can be better with the people I serve.
Any other words that have impacted you? Books.
I when you guys started talking about that, I started thinking about the words of my students. Like I would have my students share of themselves and share stories about themselves, and we would get really into telling our stories and sharing our stories. And I just remember feeling so, honored that they would share so much, so willingly of themselves. And we always did it as the beginning part of the year. But I feel like that's so important is honoring the stories of our kids, honoring who they are, where they come from, what they bring to us, and how, they, hearing those stories and hearing about them enriched my life. And still does. I still think back and wonder, if where they are and what they're doing, but that was always a way of connecting with them. So yeah, that was powerful for me.
Is it the best part of being a teacher, and I miss it every single day, I don't know about the rest of you, is how much you learn from your students and how much they make you better, and how much and how empathetic they make you in terms of just thinking about their lived experiences and being able to share in so many students' experiences and how much that's enriched, our lives. Zach, what about you?
Yeah, I think, for me, my dad, who was a teacher for 40 years in New York City public schools, has always really served as a mentor. And actually, my very first teaching experience came in his classroom. He was an elementary school PE teacher during the day, and he taught GED for 20 some odd years in the evenings. He did that all in Bushwick, Brooklyn, if you're kind of familiar with the neighborhood.
Yes,
I am. So I was heading off to China to go teach English for a year after college, and my dad said, you can't just show up to China having, no teaching background whatsoever. He's like, come observe me for a couple of classes, we'll kind of debrief afterwards. And I remember that his students, adults were taking this test, and they were all sitting around, and my dad came up to me and he goes, hey, there's going to be about 10 minutes left in class when they finish, so start planning your lesson. I was like, what do you mean?
Love it.
Obviously, I'm a bit frazzled in that moment, and obviously rightfully anxious. But it's right before, it was right before Obama's inauguration in 2009. Yeah. And so I thought to myself, I'm a poli-sci major. I can get up. I can, talk a little bit about the Electoral College, because obviously the Electoral College is a fascinating subject.
Yeah. I like that's the first thing you thought about.
Unbelievable. It speaks to two things. One, like my youthful ignorance, and also my youthful arrogance. Those things perfectly in sync. And I got up there and I felt very confident, and I started speaking, and a guy in the front row raised his hand, and I kind of cocked my shoulder back, and I called on him. And this guy raises his hand. He goes, so what's the point of all of this? Just like calling me up right then and right there. And, the class bursts out laughing, of course, and, soon enough, they, trickle out. And my dad sat down with me, and the words that have never left me as an educator, they've been my engine ever since, is he looked at me and said, Zach, before we start the debrief, remember, great teachers are not born, they are made. And that's why every day we wake up early, every day we constantly learn, we recognize that our practice is unfinished because there's no silver bullet solution in the world of education, right?
Yeah.
And so I think those words have really resonated deeply with me and truly have been sort of my driving philosophy as a teacher.
Yeah, that's really cool. We're gonna wrap things up here, but every one of you have impacted me, and what I am most honored about is that I have gotten to connect with all of you. And I think one of the things that, if there is a gift in the pandemic, it's being able to collaborate more and see each other more, because I think we're on the road so much. But it's just so nice to be able to connect in this way. And every one of you, like Isaac, your patience and your kindness has impacted me. Connie, your creativity just always blows my mind, how creative you are. Rachel, like your smile and your warmth. And Zach, you're quirky and interesting and really funny. And I just wanted to let all of you know the impact that you've made on me and my husband and our family. And I want to kind of end with giving a shout out to maybe a teacher that you know recently, that you've spoken to, that you've partnered with, that has really impacted, that you see the impact that you're making. Because I think right now more than ever, teachers need to hear that they have value and that they're impacting the world right now. And although they might feel like they're not, just showing up every day is an impact. So let's just kind of do a quick round in the end. And what's one teacher or a couple of teachers that you would like to honor, and then we'll wrap this up, and then we'll be back in a couple of weeks.
So I can start. I was mentioning earlier that team that I worked with tonight. So I just want to shout out to Jack Macy Intermediate School in Montebello, California. I mentioned when we first started, they showed up this afternoon after working a long day to sit with me for an hour and a half and talk about, impact, and they were just, I was mentioning how I just wanted to give them boy, do I appreciate what they do every day. And I appreciate that they're, like I said, they're stress benefiting from their hard work. So I see you, Jack Mason.
Who's next? I'm crying a little bit. Shocking. Who's next?
Well, I'll share. I have, I'm just going to mention one teacher by name. It's a teacher that I had the privilege of working with directly when I was a principal. And she's still in the school where I was. Her name is Stacy Sanders, and she was the tech teacher pre-COVID and post-COVID. And the role that she's playing is not only are people just flocking to her with support and need of support so that they can just do what they do well, with this barrier of technology kind of coming into play for many, many educators. So she's supporting them, she's teaching her class, and then of course she has her own family on top of all of this. And she does it every day with a smile. So you just never know that all of the additional stress and weight that she is bearing right now, you just never know it. And if she's watching, or if she does watch, she'll probably say something like, "Me?"
Cool. Who's next?
Well, I think for me, it's two teachers at different points in their teaching career. So it's Tom Skaggs, who's a young teacher. He's only a year in, and Debbie Atkins, who's been in education for more than 30 years now. But each of them have shown a similar appetite, a similar alacrity to grow and to learn and to utilize the opportunity presented by pandemic teaching to really advance and further their practices. And I'm not talking about, them iterating in, on islands or just in little spurts. I mean, they're constantly seeking to grow. And so one day they'll introduce learning menus, and then they're asking, what is the next thing, right? Yes, we have Google Classrooms. How can we further explore Gather.town? And so they're constantly looking for that next thing, constantly in search for how to reach all of their students. And so for both Tom, who again is in his first year, and Debbie, who's in her 30th, shout out to them both for using the pandemic as an opportunity to grow and innovate and become better teachers.
That's
so
awesome.
cool.
Isaac.
Yeah,
That's awesome.
I had the opportunity as many days to be with so many great educators today, but at the end of the day, I was on with Spartanburg District 2 in South Carolina, and Carlisle Foster's Grove is Kathy Garner's the principal, and her whole team, they were leading the district in some professional learning and really engaging them. And I just had that time where you feel so excited and proud to be a part of this great thing we do, because like you said, they're struggling with all these different things with their families and school, but they're so passionate about the impact they're making. They're talking about analyzing student work and working through progressions and changing how students think about dispositions for learning, all these things. So shout out to CFG and what they're spreading in their district.
Yeah, and I'd like to shout out to LaToya and Danielle.
Yes.
Archer from the New York City DOE, who PS22 and
68
and PS68, who partnered with us all summer and developing the Empowered Learner Toolkit. And it was like some of the most fun that I had over the pandemic, because we got to hang out on Zoom and develop something that we really think will help a lot of teachers, and the passion that they brought to the work and their dedication and their and how perfect they wanted it to be really inspiring, and was really needed for me at the time, because I think like all of us, we weren't consulting as much as that we were used to. So just having those connections with those two really inspired me. So I want to give a shout out to Danielle and LaToya. And the last thing I want to say is we have 4 experts here at the Core Collaborative that I know will make an impact in your schools and districts. If you want someone to really support you with early literacy and getting kids to take their ownership of their learning, Isaac is your man. If you want to partner with someone that really believes that mistakes are the way that we learn, Zach is your guy. He really gets it and is developing some really cool content around mistakes literacy, which I think is vital to our field, because I don't think that we think of mistakes as a learning opportunity, and Zach is your guy for that. If you really want to get English learners to sail, Rachel is your gal, and she will also give you a big hug, and you will feel like you're friends forever. And if there is one person that I think can do everything just creative and excellent, but the engagement and questioning, and every person that I have talked to that has engaged with Connie Hamilton, Connie is your person. And on top of it, she is one of the most caring individuals that I've ever met. And so I wanted to end with that, because we are a professional learning network and we're here to help everyone make impact. And I am really grateful that you all spent 45 minutes to an hour with us and honoring the impact of the people that we love and honoring the impact of educators everywhere.
Thanks, everybody.